I'll now call the school board meeting to order. Could I have a motion going to close?
So moved. Second.
Moving properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. We're now in closed session. All right. Could I have a motion to go out of close?
So moved. Second.
Moving properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Pursuant to the Code of Virginia, the board discussed personnel matters and student matters during closed sessions. Matters discussed in closed sessions have been added to the consent agenda and other parts of the agenda as action items and information items. Members of the board, please certify that only lawful matters were discussed in closed session. Board members, please respond by roll call.
Mrs. McMurphy? Yes.
Chairman Reed,
Yes.
Mrs. Bocek,
Yeah.
Dr. Burnett.
Yes.
All right, at this moment, we lost one of our members that used to be one of our bus drivers. And I would like to have a moment of silence for her before we do the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this moment, would you bow your head, please? Thank you. Now, could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I believe we have the finance addition and the minutes, new minutes from two previous meetings.
Okay. All right, could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moving proper second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have public announcements. November, National Family Day, Literacy Month. November the 11th, Veterans Day. November the 17th, Substitute Educators Day. November the 22nd through the 24th, school system will be closed for Thanksgiving break. November 30, end of term grading period. December the 6th, interim report issued. And December the 11th, school board meeting at St. Clair Walker Middle School. All right, Dr. Sykes, let's have some recognition.
Recognitions. I'm actually going to go to the podium to do our recognitions. All right, so what I'm going to present to you this evening are our navigators of the quarter. And part of when we created or updated our strategic plan and charting our course, one of the areas was capacity building, where our division creates a respectful and supportive culture for all school community members. And part of the strategies or objectives that we indicated in there was that we wanted to recognize our faculty and staff who support students above and beyond their normal work, and that it's tied to a specific strategic objective each quarter. The first quarter of this year, our navigator of the quarter is tied to a positive learning environment, which means our division provides a safe and supportive learning environment that meets the needs of the school community. So we shared a nomination form with staff and students and families in the community to nominate any of our staff who fit that bill. And tonight we are going to recognize 4 teachers and 4 support staff who received multiple nominations. I will add that we received a total of 47 submissions. Some of these staff, the ones who are here tonight, received multiple nominations, but there are others who received at least one, and I'll be reaching out to those staff members also and thanking them for what they do. So as I call your name, please come to the front to receive your certificate. We also have pins for you that were made. They just didn't make it down the St. Clair Walker this evening, so I'll be visiting your classrooms for those. All right, our first navigator of the quarter for positive learning environment is Amanda Knighton, who is a Middlesex Elementary School teacher. And what I'm going to read are some of the things that were submitted by colleagues who shared or nominated their colleagues or teacher, or because we let families and community also nominate. So Mrs. Knighton maintains a fun and meaningful learning environment. Her lessons are so engaging. She treats her students with respect and teaches them positive affirmations to deal with hard situations. She has high expectations for behavior and achievement. Her students are so fortunate to have her as a teacher. And I guess Ms. Knighton is not here this evening, so I will visit her for her certificate and pin. Is she here? There she is. Yes, come on down. I'm sorry, Ms. Knighton. All right, next we have Laura Longest, who is another one of our Middlesex Elementary School teachers. Mrs. Longest puts her heart and soul into creating learning experiences for students. She forms positive relationships with students and staff. She takes extra time creating fun resources, games, and activities to meet the needs of her learners. She keeps a positive and calm attitude. So if Mrs. Longest is here. Next, we have Robin Longworth, who is another Middlesex Elementary teacher. Robin has worked diligently this year to build a strong classroom community and high expectations for the students in her class. She has put a lot of effort into addressing the social emotional needs of her students through morning meeting lessons. She uses emotions and resources as well as implementing the Harmony curriculum with fidelity in order to provide needed input towards its school-wide implementation next year. Thank you, Mrs. Longworth. And then our 4th teacher is Mr. Eric Schaefer, who is a Middlesex High School special education teacher. Mr. Schaefer understands what my child needs and how to show my child that he is responsible for speaking up and listening. He works in every class to make students comfortable while learning. He works with students in small groups to expand their knowledge. He always has their best interest in mind and is not afraid to tackle new assignments to help others. Congratulations, Mr. Schaefer. All right, now for our 4 support staff members. Ann Baltrasitis, who is a Middlesex High School school counselor. Ms. Baltrasitis knows students better than the average counselor and takes time to advocate for them, counsel them, mentor them, and encourage them on their path to success. I appreciate all she does, and she is truly a top-notch standout counselor. She cannot tell students no and will go to all measures to help them find a college or career path. She has continued to reach students and offer them opportunities outside of the school. So we thank you, Ms. Baltrasitis. Next, we have Mr. Chris McBurney, who is our supervisor of nutrition for the division. We have so many more students eating breakfast in the morning and reading the menu for the next day. At lunch, students anticipate the meal of the day. Students make positive comments about the change in menu options, a creative approach to choice, and the ability to grab a fresh salad or sandwich. Chris shows no signs of slowing down as it relates to creating a model school nutrition program in Middlesex. We thank you, Mr. McBurney. All right, our next support staff person is Caitlin Collins, who is a paraprofessional at Middlesex Elementary. Ms. Collins makes a point to greet students in the hallway each morning and generally makes sure they have a smile on their faces. Caitlin supports an inclusive learning environment at MES. Caitlin has gone above and beyond to cultivate relationships with students. As a parent, it is comforting to know that there are educators like Caitlin who have my child's back and are ready to provide support and assistance to help him reach his full potential at MES. And our fourth support person, navigator of the quarter, is LaSalle Morning, a Middlesex High School paraprofessional. Ms. Morning goes above and beyond to work with students and their families to help their education as well as their emotional and mental health well-being. Students feel comfortable with her, and she is able to give the tough love that so many of them need. She is innovative and tireless in her work and an inspiration to the work alongside with MHS. I congratulate you, Ms. Morgan. I need to get a picture of you from someone with a camera. But I thank you all for being here this evening. This is just a small example of the excellent staff we have with Middlesex County Public Schools, but we did recognize that we don't thank you enough for what you do. So we thank you all for being the first navigators of the corner for positive learning environment. And I think we're going to get a picture before you leave. And I have pins to circulate around the buildings to bring to you all. Thank you all.
Next, we'll have educational highlights. Dr. Sanders, principal of St. Clair Walker Middle School.
Good evening. I'm excited to have a few sixth graders here with us tonight who are going to introduce themselves, and then they are going to walk you through a day in the life of a sixth grader, starting with their WIN block and moving through the 6 classes of the day. So they're going to start off by introducing themselves.
Hi, my name is Scarlett Elias, and I've been going to MCPS since I was in kindergarten. Hi, my name is Leon Juarez, and I have been in MCPS for 7 years.
Hi, my name is Nadia Crater, and I have been going to MCPS for 7 years.
I am Kennedy. I've been going to MCPS for 3 years.
Hi, I'm Ransom Haas. This is my first year at MCPS.
During WIN block, I study anything that I have to in order to pass a test. During WIN block, I also like to finish missing work and go to clubs. Sometimes on Fridays, we go to Hawk Circles and talk about how to be a good SOAR student. SOAR stands for Safety, Ownership, Attitude, and Respect.
I have to give you some context on that picture. That is one of the 3D printers from our STEM club. And I have some medals here from our STEM lab. We make 3D printed medals for the YMCA Jingle Bell 5K. In art, I do fun activities, and I have been learning lots of new things, and sometimes we even go on walks. Career in life teaches us about budgeting and helps us get ready for our future jobs. In band, Miss Gwill is really calm and nice. Miss Gwill really helps us learn how to play our instruments. Miss Gwill encourages us every day to be a good source student by showing us how to be respectful to our peers. In physical education, we start off by walking around the gym, and then either Coach Lutz or Coach Payne will turn on music and we will start running. We have health every Wednesday, and we are learning about counting calories. In technology, we are learning about measuring, specifically the metric system. So those pictures are pictures of actually the pictures of the exploratory arts. The first one is art. That one right there is STEM. That one on the bottom in the middle is career in life. And those on the right are, in the top right is PE, and the bottom right is band.
In language arts, we are reading an awesome book called Percy Jackson, the Lightning Thief, and we are doing an essay on one of the chapters. In each class, we have a little writing activity. For example, one time we had to figure out where the commas and periods went in the sentence. We also do holiday-related activities. For example, for Halloween, we got to make a scary story, and we are going to share it to the whole class soon. We learned so much in Miss Cox's class because she explains things so well. Miss Cox is an amazing teacher, and she has been so patient and kind with us.
This is my story that I wrote in Miss Cox's class. The title is Mr. Pumpkin Saves the Day. Did you hear those footsteps? Whispered Jack. Oh no, whispers Annabella. It's a man with a pumpkin head over his head over there, whispers Emily. I think he is after us, whispered Jack. They all scream and start running. They started running through the forest, and Jack tripped on a branch and fell to the ground. But the man on the horse with a pumpkin head was faster, and he stopped and introduced himself. Don't be afraid, kids. I am nice pumpkin. My name is Mr. Pumpkin. Why do you look like that, and why do you have a pumpkin on your head, says Jack. I look like this because a witch cursed me, and now I have a head shaped like a pumpkin, and now I will be looking like this for the rest of my life, cried Mr. Pumpkin. I'm sorry to hear this, Mr. Pumpkin, says Emily. Me too, says Jack. Thank you, children, but what is your name, says Mr. Pumpkin. My name is Annabella, says Annabella. My name is Zach, says Zach. My name is Emily, says Emily. And my name is Jack, says Jack. There are some beautiful names you guys got there, says Mr. Pumpkin. Thank you, Annabella. Thank you, says Annabella, Emily, Zach, and Jack. Wait, do you guys hear that, says Zach. Hear what, says Mr. Pumpkin, Emily, Annabella, and Jack. I heard that I can see you over again and again, says Zach. Oh, wait, now I can hear it, says Annabella. Me too, says Mr. Pumpkin, Emily, and Zach, and Jack. Oh no, it's the witch that I told you about. You guys find somewhere to hide. I got this, says Mr. Pumpkin. But what if she gets you, says Emily. I've been training as hard as I can for this moment. I think I got this, says Mr. Pumpkin. You think, what do you mean that you think? We are going to die, yelled Annabella. I can see you, little children. Come here. I got a treat for you, says the witch. No, if you want them, you have to get through me, says Mr. Pumpkin. Ha ha, you are so funny. I should make you into a pumpkin. Not your head, says the witch. You think this is funny? Come at me, says Mr. Pumpkin. The witch and Mr. Pumpkin are fighting. Mr. Pumpkin used a potion that kills witches, and the witch fell to the ground now. Now Mr. Pumpkin doesn't have a pumpkin on his head. Now he has a normal head. Yay, cheer the kids. Let's celebrate by leaving this forest and say we won, says Emily. That's a great idea, says Mr. Pumpkin. Yeah, says Annabella, Zach, and Jack. So Annabella, Emily, Zach, Jack, and Mr. Pumpkin marched and said we won until they got to the end of the forest and saw light, and Annabella, Emily, Zach, and Jack's parents. Bye, Mr. Pumpkin, says the children. Bye-bye, says Mr. Pumpkin. The children told their parents about all the crazy events and hoped to do it again next Halloween. The end. In math, we are learning about coordinate planes. Miss Robinson is super patient and she is an amazing teacher. Ever since the beginning of the year, I've learned so much in math, and I am so happy that Miss Robinson is our math teacher.
Science is really fun. We've been learning about renewable and non-renewable energy. Sometimes if we're quiet and not acting crazy, Mrs. Marr will take us outside to play for a couple of minutes at the end of class. Mrs. Marr is an amazing teacher because it is her top priority to make sure that we learn and be a good source student.
In history, we are learning about the Inuit, Kwakiutl, Lakota, Pueblo, and Iroquois tribes. We are learning so much in this class, and Mrs. Jelinski explains things so well. She is such a fun and happy teacher, and she is amazing at teaching history. She also gives us many chances, and she really goes into detail when it comes to working and learning. In the picture, there are 2 brochures that we did a few weeks ago. We were pretending to persuade people to go to the geographical regions we were studying. That was a fun project.
I am so proud of these students. When I asked them if they would present at the school board, a couple of them gave me the deer in headlights look, like, I don't know if I can get up here and talk to everyone. I said, I promise you'll be fine. I gave them the skeleton of what I wanted them to present, and they were the ones who were able to go through and add the words, the transitions, and the colors. And I think they've done a wonderful job getting up here tonight, speaking to you all. I want to thank them. I want to thank their parents. And then also we have Ms. Cox and Ms. Jay here tonight. But I do want to thank all the teachers, because you can see there's a busy day. We have all of the standards, and then we continuously teach our students to soar and show safety, ownership, attitude, and respect. And I told them you all may have a few questions for them. So if you all want to stand up, we definitely want to get a picture. If there are any questions, they'll be happy to answer them.
So I have a question. You said that if you're not acting crazy, so,
Not acting like, if we're not like, if we behave,
oh, you behave.
if you behave, then we will get like.
Oh, that's no fun, though. Well, I think you all did a great job. Obviously, you're learning a lot.
Sounds like a happy bunch of 6th grade.
Thank you. Great job. And the parents of those students, would you like to stand?
Take a bow.
Take a bow. Okay. All right. Next. Okay. Parents and students that just presented, if you would like to leave at this time, I'll give you a second to do so.
Go home and do your homework.
Okay. Next, open the floor to public comment. Ms. Kim, you have some guidelines that we,
The Minnesota County School Board encourages community members to attend and participate in meetings. All persons wishing to speak must sign in prior to the meeting. Those who have signed up will be called to speak. Each speaker will give his or her name and the district in which they reside for the record. Each speaker will be given one opportunity to speak and will be allowed 3 minutes to give his or her comments. If more than 3 minutes are needed, someone else who has signed up may relinquish his or her time to the speaker. All comments and or remarks will be addressed to the school board, and you must be a Middlesex County resident. That being said, Dawn Moore of Urbana, I would like to do the second half, please. Thank you. Steve Gresham of Locust Hill. All right. And Shelton Scott of Jamaica.
Good afternoon. I'm Shelton Scott, Jamaica District, and I came to address some issues. I would like to say when we send our kids to school, we trust that their well-being is taken care of. But some issues have arisen that need to be addressed. Last Monday, there was an appeal for a young man named Christian Ward. And it's about a suspension, and the suspension seems a little excessive. I would like to know, how is discipline meted out in the school system here at Middlesex? It's excessive because we have things that's going on in these schools, in our schools, and we're not getting, it's not being addressed. We need these issues to be addressed. We look for our kids to come to school. They are safe going back home. And they are getting back home, but how is discipline being meted at the schools? Can anybody tell me?
so we don't respond during these sessions?
During the public sessions?
Right, yes, sir.
Okay. Every child has a right to an education. And for a child to be suspended for the excessive days this young man has, it's about a quarter of the year, school year. And when he left from the school, the circumstances were excessive. You know, he was suspended from the school, but it was 3 days later before the issue was addressed. This is an issue that we have to bring to head. We have to find a resolution to get this young man back into the school system. I can only imagine what kind of trauma this young man went through. Or is it affecting him psychologically right now, not being in school? That's all I have to say about the issue, but it needs to be addressed. The parents need to know something. The grandparents, the guardians, they need to know something. As far as the well-being of this child, we all have a responsibility as a community to address his issues and his well-being. We all have that responsibility. When you take on jobs as educators and administrators in the school system, you didn't take this job lightly. You had a passion for this job. And we expect that to be the child's first priority, his well-being. That's all I have to say. Someone else? Thank you.
we don't normally allow, non-residents to speak. I'm gonna have to adhere to that. Is that, okay? All right. Okay, Shelton, you've spoken. Have you signed up? Okay. Yeah, could you please come to the podium? Okay, excuse me, 1 second. State your
Linda
name.
Diane Scott Harris. Saluda.
Salute.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. I have a question in relation to the request from Pastor Wright concerning not being a resident of the county and having pastorship over the young guy who we're talking about. Since he can't speak to the board, can he give his written request to the board?
Yes,
Will you accept that?
yes.
Okay, that was my question, and you've given my answer. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. Anyone else? Could you step to the podium, please?
My name is Brenda Burnett. I have a question regarding our pastor. He is paid a salary in Middlesex County. And he is the pastor of Emmanuel Baptist Church. He works hard for the county. Although he does not live physically in the county, he's still part of Middlesex County to our congregation. Why can't he speak? Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Public input now closed. Let's see. Board, board member committee reports.
Since our last meeting, we've had the regional SPED meeting and I've been to the Bridging Communities, fall meeting. Bridging is doing remarkably well. We are at 201 students and, the Yamaha grant that we received of $125,000 is really going to, help these young individuals who are working on marine engines, and it's a fantastic grant and we're able to get in Yamaha engines for them to work on. So this marine program is really taking off. The EMT program is new this year. And I was there walking around and they were working really hard on the dummies and giving them CPR and switching off, and they were working. It was great to see them working so hard. All the programs are really thriving. It's a wonderful program, and our students love it. And we actually use more of the slots than we were originally slotted for, because we have so many students who are interested and other school systems don't fulfill theirs. So it should go. It's a wonderful program. Our regional SPED program, we are still trying to find a teacher to open a classroom in Matthews. We are the opening is constantly posted. They have had a couple of interviews, but individuals were not qualified for this type of work. So they're being very specific about who they hire but Matthews is still open, for us to put a classroom there. And, they've had a great start to the year. The teachers are working exceptionally hard.
Dr. Burnett?
Chesapeake Bay Governor's School is certainly providing a quality experience for the students that are there. However, enrollments are significantly down. In the case of Middlesex High School, in 2020-2021, in that particular school year, we had 26 students from Middlesex attending the Governor's School. This year, we have 12. I met with Dr. Jason Strong, who's the director of the Governor's School, and asked him if he had any ideas about why the enrollments are decreasing, because it's not just Middlesex, it's across all of the counties that send students to the Governor's School. And first of all, he said that there's a renewed interest in the ninth graders who would be the first year students in the Governor's School next year, and he's optimistic. But he said that two things probably are the cause for the decline in enrollments. First thing is math. Math is extremely important because it's a science curriculum, and it's required that students have at least passed through geometry before they enter the Governor's School. They go to college level courses while they're in the Governor's School, dual enrollment. Many of them graduate with the first year or first 2 years of college under their belts before they graduate from high school. He said that there was an attempt a few years ago to track students from the 5th grade on in math, and therefore if a student suddenly caught fire in the 7th grade, it was difficult for them to catch up with the students who were accelerated beginning in the 5th grade. That effort is no longer in place apparently, so the math issue, while it hasn't gone away and it hasn't gotten any easier, that certainly curtailed some students from entering the competition to get into the Governor's School. The second reason that Dr. Strong gave was the fact that some students today just don't want to put in the extra effort. They're qualified, but they say, I don't want to do all that homework. That's a concern. I think on all of our parts, teachers and board members. It's kind of a malaise, maybe coming out of COVID, don't know. But those are the two reasons that Dr. Strong gave me when I met with him last week. So I think, Dr. Seitz, I think we're seeing some positive steps to increase the number of students from Middlesex, at least I think that's what I understand.
Yes, that's correct. We're slated for 19 slots next year. And Dr. Strong, I'm sure he shared with you, has done a great job of meeting with students and their family, as has our school counseling department at Middlesex High School, and then Macy McNamee, who's their gifted coordinator. She helps with that also. So I think we're doing a much better job of helping our students and families understand what that program is about and what they need to get in and then be successful. So I would expect that we would see our numbers increase.
That's all I have.
Jenny?
Okay, since our last meeting, I had a WHRO online meeting, and they highlighted a theater program for the hearing impaired, and I encourage all the teachers and staff members to use WHRO as a teaching tool. They've got incredible programs out there. Let's see here. Dr. Sanders, oh, there you are. I cannot tell you enough how wonderful the Builders Club was at Oyster Festival. My father's a Kiwanis member, and I heard nothing but praises for several minutes. Saturday afternoon, he was there both days and he said your children were attentive, helpful, just on the ball the entire time. So can't thank them enough and you for your support. What else did I have? Oh, last Thursday night, Mrs. Sojek and I were able to attend an informational session at the Foundry, which is going to be an after school, what would you call it, after school
Venue.
or for teens upcoming. And that was a very very eye-opening and a very nice venue that they had set up, and hopefully they'll reach out. I know they've reached out to principals of older grades for help in selection. So.
And I was finally able to sign off on the Hampton Road sanitation documents. To finally get that ball rolling. That's been probably a year or so going through that process, but we've finally gotten it to the point of where I was able to meet with the lawyer and sign off on the documents that needed to be signed off on. All righty. Next, we have consent agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Okay. Next, we have some action items. Dr. Sykes.
Yep, we will start with appropriations request, and you can find that on page 38. We have two items there. The first is dealing with switching for a staff member that's paid through us that runs through Richmond County as they're the fiscal agent for a cohort that's going through a program at William and Mary. And then the second is the actual payment for CTE equipment from the state. Since the state finally approved a budget, that's the actual number. I can answer any questions about those.
I move we approve the appropriations request. Second.
Moving properly second, in question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried.
All right, next we have the budget calendar, and you do have an amended version in your packet at your desk. This is the same schedule as last year, which has us for me presenting and you approving a final budget at the March meeting. The addition that was not in what's in your original packet is that I asked to add a work session for the school board sometime in January to be determined. Since we do have new members coming on to the school board, I think it's important for us to come together as a school board and work through some of these things before we get to an official first presentation of the budget. So I do bring you the amended budget calendar for your approval this evening.
I move. A
Second.
Moving properly second, question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried.
All right, next we have a policy review on first reading, and that is policy JHCD-R1, administration of medication, specifically naloxone, and you had already approved the policy. The changes basically allow for anyone who's completed the training and is authorized by our division to administer it, whether or not a nurse is on duty and in the building. And that those who are authorized may be able to carry it during the school day. I will let you know that we've had 22 staff have been trained, have received the Revive training. They all are able to get naloxone from the Department of Health so that they can have it at any time. And we are also going to offer a second training to any staff who would like to partake on January 3rd. So I bring this policy updates to you for approval on first reading.
That 22 are there across the three schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Or 4 schools.
And the school board office.
And
Mhm.
I move we approve the, policy DHCD-R1 on first reading. Second.
Moving properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Okay.
All right, next is compensation supplement. And so I'll go back and give some background on this. I'll take us back to late winter, early spring, when we were finalizing the budget. At that time, the governor's budget had a 5% compensation supplement for SOQ funded positions. Also at that time, both the Senate and the House had proposed a 7% compensation supplement. However, the budget was not finalized by the time we had to present to the Board of Supervisors. And at the time, the Board of Supervisors had to approve their budget, or I should say a skinny budget was only approved at the House and Senate level and to the governor. So the Board of Supervisors approved a budget that preliminarily authorized a 5% increase effective July 1 and appropriated up to an additional 2% for a total of 7% contingent upon state appropriations that were expected to be approved in late June. That did not happen either, as you remember. So we did issue contracts in May with a 5% compensation increase with a letter that contains some language on this may change as we move forward. And so as we know, the budget was not approved until the fall. And at that time, it did include a compensation supplement of an additional 2%, which for SOQ funded positions in schools would go into effect January 1, 2024. Now, you should also know that the wording changed a little bit from the time we went into this budget version, and it indicated that if school divisions had certified that they had given a 12% over the biennium, so over the course of 2 years, FY23 and FY24, that the school division would receive the full compensation supplement. And technically we did, because we gave 7% in FY23 and then 5% in FY24. So I go on to let you know that at last week's Board of Supervisors meeting, that board voted to approve the additional 2% increase for county staff at their meeting last week. And so although we did not receive all of the funds that the state could have appropriated, because we were still thinking that maybe a calc tool error would be corrected, that wasn't necessarily corrected, but there was some additional funding that did come through with the state. So that, coupled with the savings we are experiencing with 2 staff recently resigning, we are also in a position to fund the additional 2% for all staff beginning January 1. So I bring this information to you both for discussion and for your approval this evening, and I'm also happy to answer any questions.
Any question?
I move we approve the additional 2%.
I second it.
Moving properly second. Any question?
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Okay. Next, we have some information items. Meredith Dash.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Good evening, Chairperson Reed, Dr. Seitz, and members of the Middlesex School Board. My name is Meredith Dash, and I'm an environmental educator for the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay. I'm also a former 3rd grade teacher. And I have with me here Robin Didlake. She serves on the Friends of Rappahannock. You'll hear more about us. Hanover Caroline Soil and Water Conservation District currently holds a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, School District Capacity Grant. We call it Project Wonder. The wonder in Project Wonder stands for win-win, because it's W2, on designing environmental relationships. The goal of the grant is to build those relationships by helping the school districts in the Middle Peninsula, Caroline County, Essex County, Middlesex County, by helping the school districts create equitable, sustainable, and systemic environmental literacy plans. Friends of the Rappahannock, so hence Robin here, and myself, Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, are partners on this grant. To provide some context to the meaning behind an environmental literacy plan, I will share with you the Virginia Department of Education's definition of environmental literacy. which reads, quote, "Having the knowledge, skills, and dispositions to solve problems and resolve issues individually and collectively that sustain ecological, economic, and social stability." Unquote. Big words there. The plan that we create for your school district will support the path that students can take through their school career so that by the time they graduate, they possess the skills necessary to make informed environmental decisions in their community for their community. Now, I can share a little bit about the progress of our grant. 2022-23 was the year one of our grant. During year one, we introduced the school administrators and community to the grant's goals. This was done through roundtables, a community survey, tabling at some school events, community events, and working with various people, including Dr. Bishop, to keep them updated. Our survey showed that when the teachers actually valued outdoor learning, campus gardens, and building partner support. Administrators valued outdoor learning, student projects, and campus gardens. Overall, the survey showed that our community values environmental education with a focus on outdoor learning. Through this survey, we have identified at least 17 community partners and concerned citizens just here in Middlesex County. Year two is the 2023-24 school year, the one we're in. This fall, we will work to form a steering committee made up of community stakeholders, the ones we identified, concerned citizens, and school district staff. This committee is going to help formulate the goals of the environmental literacy plan. And then we will work with the committee, Superintendent Seitz, Dr. Bishop, and other identified staff and teachers to write the environmental literacy plan. We welcome your support of both the steering committee forming and the first version of the plan when we bring it back to you as the school board in the spring. Specifically, I would like also ask you to consider how this plan could best be adopted, as we will pay careful attention to ensure it directly supports the core values and objectives that are already outlined in your 2023-29 strategic plan. Looking ahead, on March 11th, we will be providing an opportunity for the senior administration at both Middlesex County and Essex County to attend a field experience where they will be invited to see through the eyes of a student. Activities could include stations such as hiking and catching macroinvertebrates. More importantly, this outdoor experience will allow for networking among the two districts and encourage interactions with the community partners that we've identified and some of the concerned citizens who we'll also invite to this event. If you would like to join our steering committee or attend the March 11th event, or you would like to meet with our team, please feel free to contact me or Robin on the email address that we've provided you on the flyer. Hopefully you guys already have one of these. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and we welcome any questions that you have. Yes.
How will this plan benefit our students?
So we've kind of thought a lot about that. There's a couple different answers you can kind of consider, one of which is building on the 5 C's. So in the Department of Ed, we have our 5 critical thinking, creative thinking, communication, collaboration, and citizenship, all skills. So as we create this environmental literacy plan, we're going to also focus on the skills, not just the content. So that's how it benefits our students. It's also going to provide a scaffolding that helps us realize when kids are in kindergarten, maybe they have one experience that may then build when you get to 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and up on through high school. So that by the time they graduate, the experiences they've had have built up this real solid knowledge base of what it means to be an environmental citizen. And then we want to root this in community need. So like, we really want students to graduate with like local knowledge. So that's what this is going to be rooted in as well. So something that's very fit for Middlesex students to be able to make environmental decisions here. Any other questions?
Sounds great.
Oh, good.
Really does. Sounds like a wonderful plan.
Wonderful. That's what we like to hear. Well, thank you so much. Again, I encourage you to reach out. We would love to talk to each one of you so that we can hear more about what you guys think as we continue on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have capital improvement update, Dr. Seitz.
Yes, So within your packet, you have what we have submitted for the county's 24-28 plan. This is submitted every fall. It goes to the planning commission, and then they kind of rate the items overall for the whole county, and it goes to the board of supervisors, and then the board of supervisors makes determination on what goes into the budget for the next year. And so we back for us, we only have 2 items on here really, even though they go across multiple years. Is getting back on schedule for a new diesel bus each year. We had taken a little bit of a break from that as we had some grant opportunities for electric buses. So those are back on there, 1 per year. And then of course the high school renovation project. So these have been submitted to the county. I also wanted to give you an update on our current CIP. The roof restoration project at the elementary school is scheduled to be completed this week. I know that staff will be happy with that because it has been a little bit noisy at times, I understand, on the roof. Even though we thought it was not going to be disruptive to the day, there's just been some additional noise that was not expected to the day. That project did come in under budget. The original budget, which was, or we had a total of $1,100,000 that was approved for our CIP for FY24. And the roofing project comes in almost $300,000 less. So we're gonna use a little bit of that as we move into the LED lighting project at the elementary school. The project will soon be finished here at St. Clair Walker. I don't know if you noticed when you came into the main parts of the building, it should be much brighter. As that one finishes, the company will move over to the elementary school. Now that project came in a little above what we had budgeted, but I presented to the Board of Supervisors last week and shared with them is that we would move those funds over because it's all one lump fund that's funded, and we would use the excess funds to cover the LED lighting project, which still leaves just over $200,000 that we will not have to use that was appropriated to us from the county, from the CIP. So that's the update on future projects.
Other savings.
Yes. More
Back to
savings.
the millions that we have.
That is right.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Next, we have instructional and assessment data report. Dr. Bishop.
Here. Read, members of the board, Dr. Seitz. This is a review of the 2022-23 achievement data for Middlesex County Public Schools. So I'm going to go over a few things. Please chime in, ask questions as I go through these data. The next slide is really kind of the basis for, I think I'm going to point to Steve and have him switch it. There you go. The strategic goals, deeper learning, a positive learning environment, capacity building, and community engagement. As our schools develop their comprehensive school improvement plans, that's where they base their goals and their strategies. And so we'll review those. I'll share those with you as we go through this this data. So the division highlights. The majority of our teachers are trained in the science of reading, which is the language essentials for the teaching of reading and spelling. That's like the best training. It's almost a master's level training in letters 1 at the elementary school, and we have high school and middle school teachers as well. Those who have not been trained will complete training by the end of 24-25 school year. There's also a beginning initiative to improve special education instructional services led by Ms. Healy and Dr. Walsh, which would include increasing the instructional strategies to differentiate instruction. We're also using the building thinking classrooms and math, which includes different strategies to include, for instance, where to place furniture, how to build collaborative groups, what activities to engage the students in higher level tests in math. And then we are increasing the use of science of reading in the classrooms, phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, and vocabulary.
this systemic approach is really having a big impact, not only on the teachers who understand reading better, but also, of course, also the students. We're implementing Wakelet, not only to create portfolios that students can take with them after high school, but also to document higher level thinking skills and reading and writing, and also math and science. We also have EdgeElastic, which is our new assessment platform used across the division to assess student progress. Teachers can look at and visualize the data. They can see specific areas where overall weaknesses or strengths in the assessment. They can also look at individual students and be able to group those students. We also have Talent Ed Perform, which is used to document and assess our professional learning across the division, and also to evaluate our teaching and learning through observations and feedback. And finally, Middlesex County Public Schools is one of 17 divisions across the state to use a new assessment that replaces PALS, which is that reading assessment, K through 3, with VALS. And I'll have more information about that throughout this presentation. And it's an assessment based on the science of reading. The first results that I'm going to show come from the school quality profile located on our on the website. And these are overall results that do not include growth. Those are the raw numbers of students that pass for 2023 as compared to the state. Growth is a measure that allows the division to count students to improve different bands. The growth assessments were designed to measure content acquisition rather than proficiency, but this is just the raw numbers here. In referencing these, we acknowledge that we are slightly behind the state results and need to improve. However, we see progress, which I'll show you on the next slide. As I previously mentioned when I discussed the action steps in place, we are building the foundation to improve performance in reading, writing, and math. This is part of it's VVOS. It's a program called SAS, which is adopted. This is the second year that Virginia has implemented this reporting system. And we look at this slide from VVOS, we can see that the growth that our students grew throughout the year. The growth indicator shows the achievement of these groups. These results are measured by student performance and their prior performance, and seeing if a student has made that sufficient growth. So it's really all this is measuring is the results the student had previously, and if by looking at those results, where the student should be the next year. So when you're looking at this at mathematics, that the fourth grade went well below. The fifth grade went well above. So there are pieces to the puzzle that we're sorting out. It could be a cohort. It could be also the strategies that we're using in the classroom. So we've identified those. We identified the students that did not make that growth. As you can see, our math is lower in two grade levels. But if you're looking at your SOL reading 4 through 8, we have some bumps where it is well above. Our goal with VVOS is to continue to strive to improve that data and to improve growth for our students, so that it's all either on that green, either on that green bar, or in the light blue or the blue bar. Any questions about that VVOS data?
Cut to the chase.
That's right.
It looks pretty. But what you're telling us is that in fourth grade in mathematics, we're well below the state level.
We're well below the growth in the state level. So those students in fourth grade did not meet, some did not. But there are a group of students that did not have the growth that we expected them to have in fourth grade math. Same with sixth grade math. So, but then you look at, the factors within that classroom, and we have the right people in the right bus, or right seats on the right bus.
So, so if the standard, I'm gonna throw out a number.
Yeah.
Okay, the following. If the standard is 7 for, say, the green,
Mhm.
so we're looking at 60%. But you're talking more growth. You're talking not in that sense of numbers. You're talking about, did 60% of the students meet a growth expectation?
For their individual growth.
Right.
So you're looking at one child and you're looking at, that's why third grade is not on here. Because the fourth grade had to look at the third grade SOL score. So they took all the kids, all the students who had a 375 in math in third grade. They look at those students and they take the fourth grade SOL test. And if you look and they extrapolate that, if those 375 students who scored that, and then in fourth grade, they scored a 385, that would be meeting the growth, because that's the average of that growth. But if we have a group of students that did not meet that growth, so so we have our data into VVOS right now, and we put that in there in October. We're not going to get those results back. Well, actually, we should get those back fairly soon, but it takes a while for VVOS to calculate all of that data to make sure that each child is accounted for. And
So
is that measured?
When you say average, mean, median, what average are we
The
talking?
standard deviation of that. So they're looking at standard deviation of where that would sit. So it's not an average, it's where that group of students would be expected to achieve in that group.
So if it's one standard deviation below where they're expected to be, are they well below? Are they?
I can't answer that. I mean, I don't know that specific, but if you're looking at, if you're doing well below, you're one standard deviation below, at least.
And is this based on some of the after effects of COVID?
It very well could be. Because you're looking at the third graders, fourth graders, and fifth graders, and I was on my board the other day and figuring out where those students were when COVID, in 2020. So where they were in terms of the virtual, where they're cut off of school, where they were a virtual student and / hybrid student, where the next year they were masked. So that does have an impact on student growth and students being prepared for that next level.
I would add that even though this looks confusing and it takes a lot to understand it, I was pleased with this data. Yes, there are 2 areas that are well below and there's one that below, but I believe we've already identified why we have deficits there and we've made corrections to those areas. And so to see the amount of expected growth or even well above growth, even though that may not be tied to high SOL scores, it shows that most everything is going the way it's supposed to be. Again, we do recognize that there's areas that need work, and I do believe that we've identified what that work needs to be, and we've already made some changes there.
Although there's some parts, like Dr. Seitz said, we know where those weaknesses are, but this is actually a fairly, if you look at it, there's a lot of good stuff going on in this slide in terms of the student performance and students making growth.
So we'll see some more data like this towards the end of the second semester?
We most likely, we may see data more of this data in the next coming weeks. In terms of the state rolling this out. You will too.
Okay.
And we'll show measures of growth too. And I'll talk about growth along with MAP scores and NWEA. Okay. So the next is Middlesex Elementary School, Colts. So the next slide is our 2022-23 student achievement data. The first is reading and the second part is math. As you can see, the chart displays the percentage of students actually passing the state reading tests. The red bar is the state, and as the state has risen, MES students have also made considerable progress. Focusing on math and reading at the elementary school, which we are doing, we're continuing to see improvement overall. So from 53 to 59 to 62, from 40 to 58 to 63. So statistically significant growth for our students, and we are catching up. The next chart accounts for growth. So that's a very important thing to know. To understand too, this chart accounts for growth. For instance, in reading, 59% of our students passed the assessment. But if we account for the growth, we have a different picture. 7% of the students did not pass the previous year, but passed in 2023. 14% of the students showed growth, which are significant growth, moving from one bar. The state there are bands of growth. And so those students, 14% of the students went from one band to the next band, and 1% of our EL students, we don't have that many EL students, 1% would account for the EL making progress in the WIDA. Combining all those percentages, we have a combined percentage of 81% for English. So really looking at that growth really matters, because I think that tells a picture of where our students were and are going to. So that's over an 81% for reading. In math, we have a similar picture with 60% passing, but 7% were recovery, and 11% showed measurable growth. So that's a different bar. So the first bar is just passing. This bar accounts for growth, either recovering or made progress on those growth bands. The next slide is just accreditation for MES. The state gives us this breakdown, but we drill down, I will tell you, we drill down to the very singular student. The level 2 indicator for Black students is shown because 67% of Black students in reading did not meet the 75% benchmark. So it was a 67%. So we have 67% students passing reading. They did not make that 75% benchmark. The red indicator in English for students with disabilities in reading was 63%, which is the state defines as a level 3 indicator. And math, MES had a level 2 indicator, meaning it was below the benchmark. And students with disabilities had a percentage rate of 57%. And we did not decrease that rate from 10% last year. So that is, again, as you see from the very beginning, we see a need to improve the instruction and for our students with disabilities. And looking back up to the chronic absenteeism is for Middlesex Elementary School is 21%. And that is considered a level 2 for absenteeism, between 15% and 25% of the students. If they receive 10% or more in absences, it is considered a level 2 indicator. So that is the accreditation report for our students. That is Middlesex Elementary School. The next is, this is MAP. This is a nationally normed data. So this is comparing students across the country. As we see here, those students in the red category who are in the lower quintile all have some intensive remediation, all have some sort of service, all have a pull-out or a push-in or what have you. There's some identification that those students, and I'm just telling you, red and yellow too. We look at the MAP scores. We also look at the SOL scores. We look at grading. We look at a lot of different factors, but I will tell you that those 24% and 22% do have interventions in place. And each student has a report that shows their overall growth over time. So teachers have these reports that will break out the strands of weaknesses such as math, where a student could have strengths. I can pull a report for math. Student has strengths in patterns, functions, and algebra. It may have a weakness in probability and statistics. For instance, within probability and statistics, the student has a report detailing what skills they have ready to develop, and then what skills can be reinforced. So this is not just one singular score for a child. It breaks down in 6 different categories in math, I think 4 or 5 different categories in English. Teachers have these reports and they can say, okay, this is where the strength of this is the weakness, and they can create their lesson plan and differentiate instruction using these data.
With that widespread ability in each classroom, do all teachers have assistance with the push or the forward, pull out or the push in?
They have math. They do have assistants. They have Van Buskirk goes in for math. We have Nate.
Right. Thank you.
Next slide is our PALS data. And PALS is a measure of a student's knowledge of important literacy fundamentals, including phonological awareness, alphabet recognition. So if you look at the PALS for the fall of 2022 versus, so in the spring of 20, go back, I'm sorry, Steve. So that's the fall of 22 and the spring of 2023. So in kindergarten, we had 24% of our students that were below benchmark. In the spring, we reduced that number to 20%. In first grade, it went from 15% to 13. We want the number to go down. In second grade, 30 to 28. And really an interesting thing for third grade, 42% to 30%. So 12% of our students were no longer identified in PALS for PALS. Look at the state has has decreased the percentage of those identified, but I just wanted to have that as a comparison to the progress that we've made in kindergarten. Next slide is the newest data, which is VALS. So again, we are 17 school divisions who have signed on to pilot VALS, which is more based on the science of reading. And so when you're looking at this, it's based upon code-based language comprehension and processing. And we're looking at the students who are identified at high risk, moderate risk, and low risk. So we're still looking at those students, and those students have been identified. And that what we're hope to do with VALS, just like PALS, is in the spring, show that we have decreased the number of students in the percentage of high risk, and then decrease that percentage in this moderate risk, and we're trying to improve those in low risk. I just want to give you this is not 2022-23 data. This is just the newest data in this year.
So with this new test, did we know what was coming, or were there some factors in there that we didn't anticipate and that could have something to do with the scoring?
We did, and it's very similar results, Danielle.
So they've known for a while that how does it bring them the best indicator of where and how is really able to read what their values are. Like, can they beat them? Can they think them? They're the first that we see how to do one here. This is one smaller answer, which is here, and we're having to define that. And it's so complex. And so this data gives us a better sense of where your child really is in that process of learning activity. And what they have break down and not being the part of the stuff. What we found was when the data started to come out, we didn't really see the part of the pilot. We felt that it was beneficial for them to have this data to go forward and look at what the final product is going to look like next year. We wanted to be a part of that process, we don't have to get ahead of the training to do it. So we know that someone is about to look a little different next year because it's still in that pilot stage. We know that we're pretty good. Parent reports, division reports, all of that is going to be different. But what we do know is it's aligned to the time frame. When the first initial wave of data came out, we had an alarmingly high number of kids that were going to high risk, especially in that first grade data, and that was across the state. And so at that point, they reflected on the assessment. We set an indicator off from it. So they readjusted, and when we looked through and looked at individual students, there were some students that had not been identified before for the part that were this year. I think because it's digging a little deeper into some of those parameters. However, the majority of them were students that we knew was already learning math stuff, we already identified heavily. So it's all aligned for the standards,
Do we have access to other school divisions, results on the PALs or any of these other instruments that you've shared?
I don't know if we have them on the valves. No.
In a whole. So in other divisions, you get a report and I feel like I get the test. Doesn't that tell me to do it first? It doesn't tell me.
Well, we wouldn't be able to compare these results with schools that are rural, small, like us. Yeah. 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 Somebody needs to drive to Charlottesville and tell them we need that data.
Okay, next slide is the middle school or Middlesex Elementary School, their comprehensive school improvement plan, their strategies. MES will focus on tiered level of instruction support in reading and math. So tier 1 inside the classroom, tier 2 that support, and tier 3 that extra intervention. MES will focus on developing citizenship skills and positive learning environment. And they'll focus on mathematics and literacy professional development. And community engagement will engage families, community members, and stakeholders in student social, emotional, and academic development. And within that school improvement plan, there's lots of strategies that support that. And here are the strategies. Being a reader, SPIRE and SIPS with Title I and special education, all grade levels. These are all based on the science of reading. SPIRE is a more intensive level of intervention, and there's more time allotted for the intervention. Being a reader is used for small groups. We also have UFly from Florida, which is used for phonics instruction with decoding and encoding, and they're both a part of our core curriculum. We have transformations are planned to connect the real world and focus on area of weaknesses in math. So we identify the areas of weaknesses, and then we create these transformations, and also providing professional development for EL curriculum, which is that grades 4 and 5. And we will adopt the K-3 only until we have more guidance from VDOE, that K-3 curriculum. And we have quarterly meetings. I don't, Danielle does, were conducted last week at MES, and they looked at performance measures and instructional strategies. They just dig deep into the data, looking at each individual child, what that student needs, providing them that intervention and that intensive help in all grades. But in 4th grade, we are mapping out the curriculum. But we're in 4th grade, we're mapping out the curriculum and the strategies for math. So looking at our math results from VIVAS, like that, put it all together. And that is MES. Okay, and then this is St. Clair Walker, student achievement data. In reviewing the student achievement data, we see the improvement in math. As you will see, based on this improvement, the level 1 indicator on the achievement data. Reading is a measure that we continue to work toward, hence the high intensity tutoring and the implementation of Lexia. Lexia we just brought on. It's a reading program that all students are going to do, and that's just going to help with that small cohort of students, but it's going to help for all students across the St. Clair Walker. And we looking at really intentionally using that WIN block. The 6th grade students talked about it tonight, but really looking at that WIN block, what I need to give those students the extra support. So you look at reading, 57, 65, and 66. Math, you see a growth there as well. I'm going to the next slide. So you see the benchmark, which is 75 and 70 for math. Again, 58% of the students pass the reading and or writing assessment. So this is English. It's not just reading, it's reading and writing at this level. So 58% passed the reading and or writing assessment, with 8% passing that had not passed the previous year, 4% making significant growth, increasing that percentage up. And the combined rate for English is 70%, which is below the state's benchmark. In terms of math, 54% passed overall, with 15% passing that had not passed the year before, and 10% showing growth. And the accreditation rate for math is 80% for St. Clair Walker. And this is St. Clair Walker school quality indicators. For English, St. Clair Walker has three level 3 indicators. The achievement gap for English for Black students with disabilities in English. All math is in level 1. And we have chronic absenteeism, which is in level 3. So that's over 25% of our students had 10% or more missing school. And then that level 3 is based upon, you have the level 3 indicators there. For Black students in English, which is reading and writing, achievement of 62% pass rate compared with the overall 58% pass rate for all students. Black students showed growth, however, 12% passing the assessment that they did not pass the year before. So 12% didn't have the year before, but they passed this year or last year, and 6% showing growth. Students with disabilities had a combined rate of 39%, 6% who did not pass last year, and 11% showing growth. So those students with disabilities and Black students, that is a focus to improve not only our Tier 1 instruction, which we're doing in English. We have professional development EL curriculum this year, high intensity professional development that Dr. Sanders is also participating with to use that. And also we have Ignite and Lexia, which is implemented. And of course that EL curriculum really has a lot of strategies that they're uncovering that model thinking, writing, and reading. So those are the indicators, the accreditation indicators for St. Clair Walker. And then our MAP scores. This is our MAP scores for the fall of 2023, so this year. You see that 56%, that's the percentile of all this group of students nationally normed. It's the average of those. And then 49% for reading. You can look at that 18% and the 23% of those in those quintiles, also the 18 and 19% respectively in math and reading, focusing on those students, understanding where they are and providing those SPIRE and SIPs and working with our teachers, special education teachers as well. Comprehensive school improvement plan, improve areas of reading, writing, and mathematics, reduce the number of short-term suspensions by creating a structured, positive learning environment, have greater ownership in their professional learning, which we're doing right now, and increase parent communication and family involvement opportunities. So what they are doing in terms of their strategies, writing strategies in all content areas, professional development and the implementation of the EL curriculum, with the English teachers and Dr. Sanders, engaging in critical thinking and mathematical conceptual understanding that's building thinking classrooms, identifying students to participate in SPIRE reading program, integration of the 2023 math standards, implementation of the high leverage tutoring program, training special education teachers in evidence-based, specially designed instruction, and increasing parent engagement with using Apogee. Those are those strategies, some of them. And to the high school. As you can see, the reading and writing test is given in one grade level. So this is not over the course of time. The high school, we are comparing, so we're comparing cohorts. So those students, say in 2021, 2022, those are the juniors right there in the reading and writing. And then the math, 21, 22, those are the freshmen right there, typically taking algebra. So it's not reflective of the whole high school, but you can see where that end of course test is. But of students who take the EOC in Algebra 1 in grade 9 and English writing in grade 11. So we're not comparing year to year. So that's where we are with our student data for high school. And then if you look at the school quality indicator for achievement, there's again, that red line is the bar, and you're looking at 89%, but that includes other factors, which students not passing, like algebra, not passing in 8th grade and passing in algebra, or using work keys or other things like that to improve that overall pass rate. And here is the school quality indicators for the high school. Level 2 for students with disabilities, and level 3 with chronic absenteeism. If you look at the college career and civics readiness indicator, it's a level 2. That is, I think it's 1 or 2 students that made the difference in that level, to make that a level 2 indicator. So we're working on making sure that we're looking at those students and having them in the right programs to achieve that CCCRI indicator. The next, we have multi-tiered processes in place to prevent students from dropping out. We have Compass Academy, we have interventions at the high school. We also have the ISAAP program. If you look at our diplomas and completion rate, at the left side, we have a slim sliver for dropouts and a slim sliver for GEDs. And again, that's we're doing a great job with intervening soon with those students who may be possible students who don't graduate. And finally, here's the comprehensive school improvement plan. MHS will improve reading and writing for special education students and Black students. MHS will improve student attendance to reduce chronic absenteeism to at least 10% annually. We're working on that, identifying every student as quickly as possible who may possibly become a student who misses 10% or more days of school. If you're not in school, kind of hard to learn. So it's a partnership with school, students, and the families, and increase staff participation in professional development, and increase the number of students participating in internships and other opportunities in the community. And finally, the strategies for the Middlesex High School, specifically designed instruction in writing at 9, 10, 11. There is a process for that. Intensive writing center units using strategies and templates for writing, small group teacher editing sessions. There's a Success 101 class this year for freshman students who have been identified, organization, looking at your GPA, study sessions, and utilizing major clarity, and just really intentionally scheduling and working with our students, and also including those students with disabilities in the transition courses. So that's the strategies for the high school. And one last slide, this will be a short one, just looking at math, English, and history. We have new standards adopted, and we'll be fully implementing those in 24-25 for math and English. We're reviewing their approved curriculum. We have letters training, and the history standards have been adopted, but we're waiting on them to figure out from the VDOE when those actually will be implemented. And that is a brief report on school accreditation data. And that's just some of the data that we're using.
The chronic absenteeism seems to be a steady problem. What are some of the things that have been put in place, or speaking with parents, trying to figure out why kids aren't coming to school? What is being done in that? Because that was consistent pretty much across the board.
It is consistent across the board. We need our families and students to work with we want the students in school, obviously. We have the social worker who is helping us to contact families. We're continuing to build up the culture and climate of our school, creating opportunities for students to come to school and engage in the curriculum and the events at school. That's really one of the best ways to do that. And then we have charts where we're looking at students who may go over that line to have too many days who would be chronically absent. And that doesn't mean that, you have a child who misses 2 days a month. That's it, just 2 days a month. They'll be chronically absent. They'll be one of that 25% or so. And it doesn't take much to have a student to be chronically absent. So bring our students to school.
And I would add that even excused absences count in that. So doctor's appointments that are during the day or other things that we typically would have considered excused in a school division, that all counts towards what the state looks at as chronic absenteeism. And we know we're trying to recover from probably a couple of years of don't send your child to school, even if their nose itches almost. We created lots of habits of don't come to school. And so it's not just here, it's across the state, and I would guess across the country also. But that message now very much is it's important for your child to be here, and we want them to be in school, no matter the reason that they're out of school.
Thank you.
Thank you, Principal.
Okay, next we have a staffing ratio, Dr. Bishop.
It's just staffing ratios that is required to be reported by December of each year to the school board. And those are our teaching staffing ratios throughout these do not include those special education teachers in an inclusive setting. So this is just this number of teachers per student. So or number students per teacher. So that data is there for you to review. Any questions about those?
Questions? Okay. All right, thank you so much. All right, okay. We'll open the floor again for public comment. And Ms. Kim, if you would go through that procedure again for us.
Good evening, school board and superintendents. What I had in my mind and my heart to say kind of changed with the actions of the board this evening. We were before you not long ago with these same issues, of course, but people from other localities stood up and spoke before you. We talk about community partners. We talk about the community raising a child. When you have a community partner that is in this county more than he's in his own county, when you have a community partner working with the children in this school on a regular basis, when you have a community partner that opened his church to this school for children who needed tutoring, and then you denied him the right to speak tonight, is very disheartening. I am very, very hurt as a community partner that you did that this evening. I do not think it's right. I do not think it's fair. He invests more time in our community than some of our community members. We have people that are here that do not live in our community. We have staff. We have people sitting on the board that live in other communities. Now, you board members live in the community. But I do not believe, I know Dr. Sykes lives in the community, but when Dr. Bishop came, he did not live in our community. Now, unless he's moved here, and I know he works here, which is understandable, but when you have a community partner that does everything he can for the children in our community, and then you denied him the right to speak for a student that he is advocating for, is very, very disheartening. Now, here I am again, and I only have 1 minute to talk to you about this policy manual that is not worth the paper it's written on again. I went through the policy manual yet again with another point in my mind, double jeopardy. In the policy manual, you have PD 1 through PD 16, which are behaviors described in the policy that are supposed to be reported to our school resource officers. Now, I have spoke before about different ways of handling different situations. When you have a child that knows has an issue, then that's the way you need to address that issue. But having the child arrested after you suspended him is not the way to do it. That is not the way to do it. There was other things that could have happened. And when you have 5 people or 6 people in a meeting and 5 come out with the same story and 1 comes out with a different story, it is not appropriate. Since my time is up, but I'm not finished, I'll come back another day. Going through the policy manual, I went clearly down in your policy manual where it says to report. And as I stated, you had 6 people in a meeting, 5 came out with the same statement, 1 came out with a different statement. I think it needs to be made very clear when any point of a discipline hearing
Whether I'm taking my child in for the first meeting to sit down with the principal or the vice principal, I need to have a copy of what you're saying. Because when we went back to the discipline hearing, the statement was different. And it wasn't different on the side of the child. And to put the child in that situation, an inverted child who is shy and is afraid of what's going to happen to him if he speaks out, if he tells what he wants to tell. But if I do that and I go back to school, then I'm going to have to deal with the backlash. And that's what a lot of our children are saying. I am also very upset to hear that in our school system, children were pulled that were in a class after there was a fight between two boys that only got 3 days. And I'm not saying no names because I don't know their names. If you have the video on your phone and we find out you gave it away, you're going to get suspended. That's coming from the students, not one student, not two students, a bunch of students. I do have a copy of the video. I cannot be suspended. I don't think it's right that things like this are happening in our school. When we come here to try to help you, we advocate for you at times, but you know, and Elliot, I've told you from day one, I will tell you when you do good, but I will also stand here and tell you when I do not agree and I feel you do bad. I am not a perfect parent. I tell my child to suck it up and come to school when she comes home and tells me stuff that I'm very upset about. Because right now, it's not happening. I will address that at a later time. But this child has been, and the only way to say it is convicted of double jeopardy. I know your concept is we have nothing to do with that, but you have to turn it over to the resource officer in order for it to happen. Where did it come that the school can no longer handle an issue? There was no gun, there was no knife, there was no fist flying. I'm upset and I need you to back off. And now I'm suspended for 43 days and got arrested 5 days later. Unacceptable from Middlesex County Public Schools right now. Unacceptable. Thank you.
Anyone else?
That was it.
That was it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, public input. I was getting ready to close it. Okay. Hmm.
My name is Minister Davelyn Gresham, and I'm in the Saluda District. Dr. Burnett, let me give you a heads up. I will be calling you tomorrow. What Dawn said, I don't know a lot about the case, but I do know about some other case. And it's very disheartening the way Middlesex is carrying themselves now. And it's very disappointing that you all don't seem to understand what is going on. Because these situations keep coming up. And they're not addressed appropriately. These kids are being targeted. They're being punished in an inappropriate way. You know, I'm looking at the charts that you just displayed. That had to be for the panel because I don't know what you were talking about. I understand what you were supposed to or trying to say, but you were way up here. And half the teachers, it seems like they don't really understand the system either. So if you're going to bring something to us, please bring it in a manner that we can understand it so that we know what these charts actually are saying. Because what you said, and from what I can understand, it's a growth. We still don't know where they are. We still don't know whether we're failing or we're succeeding. We just know that the growth is growing, but you can grow and still be failing. How do we know? Unless you all can tell us. So if you're going to come out and explain a system, please make it appropriate for the public because we don't know what you're talking about. And as far as this student is concerned, you all need to take another look and see how you're treating these children. You're up there and it says that the special ed and the Black children are having a problem. What are you doing to address it? Where's the diversity training? Because there's got to be something missing if they're not understanding. All Black students shouldn't be failing, and that's the way your chart reads. All special ed kids should be having an appropriate level of education. What is Middlesex doing to address that, other than shipping them out? You all need to pay attention, because if you go on Zillow, and see what they're rating Middlesex County schools, you'll see why people don't want to move here that have school-age system children. They're not coming because the school system's messed up. And only you all can straighten it out. That's your job. Get on it. Thank you.
Public input now closed. All right, superintendent's report, Dr. Sykes.
Yes, I do have some things to provide an update on. The first is the All in Virginia plan. And if you remember, I think I had shared a little bit at one of our previous meetings, and we were still waiting for the playbook, which we've gotten and have finalized. Some things and put into place. So we were awarded an amount that was based on our ADM and also our LCI, and it's just over $300,000 to be used through 2026. So by the time we received the information on what was expected for the high dosage tutoring, we didn't make large adjustments to the schedules that we already had into place because we were 6 to 8 weeks in the school at that point. There are 2 programs that the state is providing us at no additional charge to us, and that is Ignite for Reading, which is a one-on-one virtual tutoring program, and then Zern for mathematics. And so we are building those into both the elementary school and the middle school for students in grades 3 through 8, because that's what the grant is focusing on, is students in those SOL years that are, again, 3 through 8. So at the elementary school, students who have already been identified for Title I will be moving into that program. You heard earlier about Lexia, which is a reading program, and then Dreambox, which is a mathematics program. They'll be incorporated into reading and math classes. There's other small group pull out, push in, most of what was shared with you in the strategies that we were already doing. As for in addition to after school tutoring, very similar at St. Clair Walker, the Lexia program for reading and for Dreambox will be incorporated into all of the reading and mathematics classes just as much as we can. As we shared earlier, the WIN block, which will have more small group instruction and tutoring in there, and then the after-school tutoring plan. And so that's what we've put the bulk of our efforts into, identifying students who would qualify and need that high dosage tutoring that we can provide in an after-school setting. We'll run that on Tuesdays and Thursdays beginning November 28th. We have 20 teachers who will begin their training this week on those programs, and we have about 118 students who are participating, again, in grades 3 through 8, 66 at the middle school, and then 52 at the elementary school. We will be providing transportation and snacks for those students who stay after. And the plan is for them to have about an hour of, by the time they get into their classes and buses dismissed, about an hour of the tutoring instruction during that time. Both our literacy specialist and mathematics specialist will oversee the programs and the students. And so, like I said, that begins the end of this month and will run until near the end of the school year, actually. So that's an update on where we are with tutoring. As a school board member, you probably remember that November is Take Your Legislator to School Month. And so we did have the opportunity for Delegate Hodges to visit last week. He had about an hour of time as he ran between his other districts, but we were happy to take that. And so he did visit MHS, visited the carpentry class. He was very impressed with what's being done there, and we're excited to continue to expand that program. Again, he was impressed with the skills that he sees our students learning that they can take out into the workforce and use immediately. But I did have some main points that I wanted to point out to him. I let him know, staffing, we continue to have staffing needs within our division, and ways that can be helped on the legislative side comes with funding, and that continuing to have compensation supplements for staff. If they would continue to increase the support cap, and that allows for additional payments for positions that we already have, but the additional funding would help to support there. And any funding that could be included in the budget that helps to support tuition for those that we are trying to get their proper endorsement. We were able to take advantage of a grant this year that came from the state. We got about 30,000, and we quickly gobbled that up to help those that we had on provisional licenses get endorsement. The other point that I wanted to make to him was assistance with school construction. I mentioned the school construction grants that are out there from VDOE, and they are out there. But I felt like they're not out there for schools or divisions like Middlesex County because of our high LCI that has to run through. And that we are a small rural division where the majority of our families are families of students who are economically disadvantaged. And I asked for some just criteria that would allow our division to take advantage of any of those grants, because even if we had a project now, we wouldn't qualify. And then the last most important piece, I said to please pass a budget on time.
Yeah.
But that would help us also. So. He had a quick hour with us, which was quite full while he was here, but it was nice that he did take the time. And
You must have talked fast.
we did a lot of walking and talking while he was here. So that is my update.
All right, next we have old business. New business.
Mr. Chairman, I'm wrapping up the second year of my service on the school board. And during that time, I've always wondered why we come to a meeting, you call us to order, and then the school board leaves the room. That just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. We're leaving all of our audience here to wait until we return. So with that rationale, I move that beginning with the January 2024 Middlesex County Public School Board meeting, the agenda item closed meeting be moved to the position in the agenda following new business, and the agenda item consent agenda moved to a position following the new position of the closed meeting. That's my motion.
Second.
Moving properly second. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Pretty much, really, we somewhat going back to the old style. That was the way we used to do it. So
Sometimes retro is good.
yes, that was the way we used to do it. Okay. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are now adjourned.